South Australia is, per capita, the most footy-obsessed state in Australia. It's got the oldest state league in the world, and it probably has the most bitter footy rivalry in the known galaxy. Although the Crows and Port have only been battling on the field since the 90s, the DNA of this hatred runs right to the soul of South Australia. But why do these two teams hate each other? Is it class? Is it politics? Is it tactics? Or is it just geographical convenience? The answer is this rivalry was forged in a war that was fought not in the muddied Guernseys of the footy field, but in the suit and tie of the corporate world. This is the seeds of hatred. The Crows were established in 1990, but this rivalry began in the 19th century, when the Port Adelaide Magpies became a powerhouse of the South Australian National Football League. This sort of success always breeds contempt, and the rest of the SANFL hated Port Adelaide, especially Norwood, the white-collar eastern suburbs team that once accused Port of being so violent on the field, they said that all their players should be in prison, which according to legend inspired the Port Adelaide prison bars Guernsey. Although probably more accurate is the prison bars on the Port Adelaide jumper is meant to represent the columns that you see on the pier as your boat docks into Port Adelaide. But that's not as good a story. Fast forward to the 1980s and football everywhere is hemorrhaging money. It's very much apparent that state-based leagues and small clubs just aren't financially viable. It's apparent that what needs to happen is a national Australian Football League. So the Victorian Football League gets aggressive and starts colonising the rest of Australia, setting up teams in rugby league heartland like southeast Queensland, sending the South Melbourne Swans to Sydney, and even setting up a team in footy-mad West Australia. Their most logical next step was to make inroads into SANFL territory and set up their own team in Adelaide. The SANFL clubs all united in telling the Vics to piss off. We don't want your league in our state. We got the SANFL, that's better. They were all together, except one. Port Adelaide secretly met with the VFL and applied to join their league next year, which would then be called the AFL. It was like on Survivor, when a big alliance, but one person breaks it and suddenly all chaos breaks loose. The SANFL teams, when they found out about this, were outraged and even tried to get the SANFL to kick Port Adelaide out of their league. Now, the SANFL didn't kick them out, but this did trigger a massive legal war with clandestine meetings, Supreme Court junctions, and all sorts of corporate skullduggery. And this is the best story from it. In August 1990, the now AFL was open to two scenarios involving an Adelaide team. One, they could let Port Adelaide join their league, or two, they were open to letting all of the other clubs form a sort of allied conglomerate team to join the new AFL. And these two camps, Port Adelaide conglomerate team, were battling it out, trying to woo the AFL to let them join their league. But then something very interesting happened. A letter was leaked to the press alleging to be from Norwood chairman Nerio Ferraro, undermining the other Adelaide clubs, applying for Norwood to join the AFL as a standalone club. The other clubs were outraged at Norwood. Norwood immediately denied it and claimed the letters were fake. And you know what? They probably were, because the letters weren't signed, weren't dated, weren't on Norwood official letterhead stationery, and most importantly, Nerio Ferraro was not Norwood's chairman. They didn't have a chairman. He was their president. Yeah. Now, there's three theories as to what actually happened here. Number one, Norwood forgot what the leader of their club's title was. Number two, Port Adelaide faked the letters in order to stir division amongst the allied conglomerate clubs, which is totally something they would do. Number three, and I reckon this is far more likely, the letters were faked by the AFL in order to force Port Adelaide and the conglomerate to make a deal quickly. Port Adelaide were in legal purgatory at that time and couldn't legally make an official bid to join the league. So the alliance quickly whipped together a bid to join the AFL, and thus were born the Adelaide Giants, later renamed the Crows. So yeah, the whole point of the existence of the Adelaide Crows is just to give a giant middle finger to the Port Adelaide Football Club. Now, obviously, a few years later, Port Adelaide did join the league, despite legal protests from the SANFL clubs, especially from Norwood. But then in 1997, the first ever showdown was played. And since then, those games have been pretty bloody good. In some parallel universe, the showdown is held between Port Adelaide and Norwood in the AFL every year. And to be honest, I reckon that would be better. But here in this universe, Crows and Port is definitely one of my favourite rivalries in the AFL. And that's how it got started. If you've enjoyed this video, please send it to any Port Crows fans or any just footy history nerds. If you would like me to talk about a specific rivalry, let me know in the comments. I love this stuff. Like, subscribe. I've got memberships. I've got merch. And if you're a Bulldogs fan, I do a podcast with Tom Boyd. Thanks for watching.